everybody. Today we're here with Steffi Chappell, the Everson Museum's Assistant Curator. Hi, Steffi. How are you today?
Good, Caitlin. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. So thank you for being on our interview today. And I want to jump right in and ask you a little bit about your backgrounds and your education. What did you study, and did you always have an interest in art?
Sure, that's a great question. So I grew up loving art. I had this really amazing after-school art teacher that I took lessons with basically from the time I was a first grader up through high school. So when I went to college, I knew that I loved art. I knew that I liked making things. So that's what I studied. I studied fine arts at St. Lawrence University. Um, and so I was a maker basically, but I never really considered becoming an artist. I don't think I had that passion or that drive to really make a career out of it. And so I studied studio classes, but I also studied art history. And it's in college where I really kind of fell in love with art history as a discipline. It didn't really occur to me that people worked in museums until I was a senior in college. So I never really considered working in a museum as a potential career path until the very final semester of my college career. So I took a couple years off, and then I went to grad school at Syracuse University, and that's where I got master's degrees in museum studies and art history.
That's really interesting you said that, because I feel like I felt the same way growing up. I was always interested in art, always making and creating, but having a career in a museum was never an option in my mind. It just didn't occur to me. I thought that was for other people, but not for me. Can you talk a little bit more about the path that kind of led you into that?
Sure. So I basically had the same thoughts that you did. I went to museums growing up when I was little. My parents took me all the time, but for some reason it never occurred to me that people worked there. I never thought about the people that actually like hung the art on the walls and, like took our money when we paid at the front door. And it wasn't until that class that I took my senior year of college, and I think it was just called museums. And that class actually opened up the idea of, oh, well, you could actually work at a museum. So that really kind of introduced me to the idea. And then when I was a grad student, I did a couple of internships, one out at the Munson in Utica, and then one at the Everson. And that really kind of, I think, cemented in me that this was the industry I wanted to get into. This is really a place that I wanted to work.
That's really great. And we'd love to hear more about what your current position is like. Can you give us some details about what your typical responsibilities are and what you do all day at the E?
Sure. So as the assistant curator, I do kind of a lot of different things. Primarily, I work on putting together exhibitions, and I really focus on exhibitions that feature work from the museum's collection. That's kind of, I would say, where my focus is, but I also do assist the other curators at the Everson with putting together their exhibitions. So I do some research for them. I do some writing for them sometimes. So that's really what I would say, primary focus is, but because the Everson is a small staff, we do a lot of different things that you would maybe think fall outside of our job descriptions, but it's what keeps our lives interesting. So I work on a lot of projects with our registrar, so she's in charge of the collection. So we worked on a lot of projects together, photographing works, kind of keeping track of the artwork, a lot of research about the artwork in the collection. I maintain the Everson blog that we have, so I have some interns that help me write posts for that. I write posts for the blog, and then also some other staff members help me out with that as well, some of our other curators. And then just a lot of other things here and there. Like I mentioned, because we're a small staff, and Caitlin, you, I'm sure, have this experience too, you become involved in a lot of different things that technically might be outside of your department, but it doesn't really matter when you work at a place with a small staff. So I've helped out on education programs before. Every now and then I work on a development project, which is very outside of my wheelhouse, but I try to help out where I can. So just kind of little things here and there.
So with all of those different types of responsibilities and spanning across all of these different departments, what kind of skills do you think really come in handy to you the most in your current role?
Ooh, that's a good question. I would say writing is definitely very, very important. I think it's important no matter what career path you choose, but particularly in the curatorial world, because often you have to impart information to people, something, let's say, about a work of art, and they have no background in the arts. They have no, prior knowledge of what you're trying to talk about. And so to share information with them in a way that is not only easier for them to understand, but is also engaging and makes them want to then learn more, that's really, really important. So writing, I would say, is kind of the top skill. And then just also a willingness to kind of be open to, let's not say anything, but open to a lot of different things, I would say, is really, really important.
I think that's a good point. Especially in the nonprofit world, we end up doing so many different types of things, and sometimes you have to know when to say no to something too. That's just as important as saying yes to all these other things that will further you in your career. So being selective about the kinds of projects that you take on, and knowing your own capacity and being honest about that.
Absolutely, that's really important. I think everyone in the nonprofit world is overworked in some manner, some people more than others, but that's definitely something that is really important, is knowing, it's great to say yes to as many projects as you can, but it's also important, as you said, to know when to say no.
Yes. So what kind of advice would you have for any high school or college students who are curious about what you do and maybe considering this as a career path? What would you say to anybody who might want to jump into this field?
Sure. I would say that just looking is really, really important. I think really to any aspect of working in an art museum, but particularly in the curatorial field, going out and seeing things. And I don't just mean going, if you want to be an art curator, going to art exhibitions, going out and just seeing anything, seeing any type of exhibition, art, history, natural science, and then also reading is really important. So going out and looking, and then going out and reading. And again, I don't just mean like your typical scholarly art historical journals. Those are really important, of course, but reading anything, because you can really draw inspiration from anywhere. I read a lot. I'm a big reader. And so I often kind of get ideas and I'm inspired by the books that I'm reading. And those can be anything from like epic fantasy novels to contemporary fiction, something like that.
That's a really great point. You never know what's going to influence you or when inspiration might strike. So the more you expose yourself to all different kinds of text, I think you're really arming yourself with a lot of creativity, and that's a really excellent point. Final question: what book are you reading right now?
Oh, that's a good question. All right, I'll say two. My very academic, like I work in an art museum. Answer is, it's actually, if I can just grab, well, no, I had it somewhere. It's gone now. But it is called, oh gosh, now I'm totally drawing a blank. It's about 5 women artists who, Ninth Street Women, that's what it's called. I think some of our docents read it for their book club last year.
Yeah.
But it's about 5 modern abstract women artists who in the mid 20th century really kind of impacted the formation of abstract expressionism. So I got that for Christmas, and I've kind of been slowly working my way through it. It's about 500 pages. So that's my very scholarly answer. And then at the same time, I just started a fantasy book. It's called Uprooted. It's by a woman named Naomi Norvik. And I think it's a kind of strange retelling of the Beauty and the Beast myth or fairy tale. So very 2 different things from opposite ends of the spectrum.
The best of both worlds, though.
Yes, exactly.
Well, thank you, Steffi, for sitting down and speaking with us. It was great to see you, and hopefully we'll be able to see you in person at the museum at some point.
Thanks for having me. This was fun. I hope to see you in person soon.
Bye.